Touch your desk. Feel the dense texture of the wood beneath your fingertips. Take a sip of your morning coffee and notice the bitter heat hitting the back of your throat. Take a deep breath and look at your own hands. Now, what if I told you that none of it exists? What if your physical body is a total fabricated lie, and you do not possess hands, a desk, or a coffee mug at all? What if you are actually just a naked, pink, wet human brain floating inside a dark glass vat in a subterranean lab deep underground? What if every single thing you see, hear, taste, and feel is just a sequence of targeted electrical impulses being fed directly into your severed nerve endings by a malicious, godlike computer programmer, orchestrating every single sensory detail of your fake life? Today, we're going to explore how this extreme reality glitch hooks directly into your modern decision paralysis, your career path anxiety, and that terrifying feeling that your entire life is an artificial trap. Welcome to Stories That Change Your Life, where we drag timeless philosophy out of the textbooks and into the digital age. In 1641, the iconic French philosopher René Descartes sat down by his fireplace and tore down reality by asking a similar question. What if an all-powerful, malicious demon is spending 100% of its energy manipulating our minds, feeding us an absolute illusion to keep us entirely deceived? In modern philosophy, we call this the brain in the vat hypothesis. Let's look at the mathematics of radical doubt. René Descartes wasn't trying to drive himself insane. He was trying to build an unshakable foundation for science and truth. He realized that our human senses are notoriously unreliable interfaces. You look at an ore half submerged in water and your eyes tell you that the wood is bent. It isn't. It's a visual optical illusion caused by light refraction. You wake up from a hyper-realistic dream, sweating and terrified, completely convinced you were falling off a building, only to realize that you're safely tucked in bed. Descartes looked at these everyday sensory glitches and asked a terrifying, logical question. If my senses can deceive me some of the time, how do I know they aren't deceiving me all of the time? To test this, he designed the evil demon thought experiment. Imagine an entity with the power of a deity, but the malice of a sadist. This demon creates an absolute multi-sensory VR simulation. When you walk outside and look at the blue sky, there's no sky. The demon is just stimulating your optic nerve. When you feel wind on your face, there's no weather. It's just an injected calculation. Centuries later, philosophers upgraded the demon into a mad scientist with a computer mainframe, wiring a disembodied brain inside a lab vat. This computer sends electrical signals to the brain's motor cortex. The brain thinks, I'm running down a path. But in physical reality, it's just sitting static in a jar of nutrient fluid twitching to a current of voltage. Here is the core philosophical trauma of this concept. If you were a brain in a vat, your internal experience of reality would be 100% identical to your current experience right now. The neural data is indistinguishable. You cannot run a diagnostic test on a mainframe from inside the simulation, because any test you run would just be another layer of code generated by the programmer. You are trapped inside an unverifiable interface. Let's map out the philosophical breach onto our modern everyday lives. Because when you live with a chronic overthinking, or when you are navigating a massive career transition, your brain subconsciously triggers a mini brain in the vat glitch. We live in a hyper-connected era where we face an absolute overload of choices. What career path should I take? Should I stay in my comfortable job or jump into something new like tech or cybersecurity? Am I building the right business model? Which digital strategy actually works? When you face this mountain of data, your nervous system enters an absolute freeze state. We call it decision paralysis. You look at your choices and you start thinking, what if I choose wrong? What if the option I pick is an absolute trap? What if the corporate structure, the tax system, the career ladder, and the whole economic layout is just an artificial, rigged machine designed to extract my labor and leave me hollow? Suddenly, you can't click submit. You can't commit. You tell yourself, if I choose this specific path and invest my time, what if the market changes in 6 months? What if AI renders it completely obsolete? What if I spend all my hard-earned savings from my budget, fail the exams, and realize I just locked myself into another cage? You start looking at the algorithms, the automated hiring software, and the economy, and you think, the system is totally fake. I'm just a wet brain taking random electric shocks from a malicious programmer who wants to watch me fail. Your mind completely detaches from physical execution. You sit on your couch staring at a blank screen, running a billion hypothetical timelines in your head, trying to hack the matrix before you ever take a single step. You feel completely paralyzed because you are treating reality like a puzzle that needs to be solved, rather than a room that needs to be lived in. But let's ground the spaceship for a hot second. Let's play out your dark little conspiracy theory. Let's say a mad scientist is shocking your brainstem right now to stimulate your entire career crisis. Let's say you are literally floating in a glass jar in a dark room deep underground. Guess what? Your rent is still due on Friday. Your fundamental job inside this reality isn't to hack the mainframe computer, break the glass, and fight the scientist. Your job is to govern your choice inside the specific parameters of the room you've been given. When we do this, we're using a massive, grand existential theory as a sophisticated psychological shield to justify our absolute procrastination. We get so terrified of making suboptimal choice that we choose absolute nothingness instead. Marcus Aurelius explicitly reminded us that it is not things that upset us, but our judgment about those things. The career path isn't a trap. Your overthinking is the trap. Shut down the hypothetical simulator. Pick up your study materials and write the first line of code. Sovereignty is built through immediate action, not through mental debugging. Now, before we look at how to run a complete diagnostic reboot on your decision-making software, we have a very real, very modern algorithm to appease. If your brain is currently enjoying this philosophical intervention and you want to prove to the YouTube mainframe that you are a living, breathing human being with real consciousness and not an automated script floating in a lab jar, go ahead and hit that like button right now. Leave a comment, tell me exact career choice or decision that currently has your brain completely paralyzed, and hit subscribe. It keeps our operational matrix perfectly balanced, it satisfies the digital gods, and it ensures your system clearance is verified for the next video. Mainframe verification complete, let's get back to the strategy. So how do we break out of this lab jar and reclaim our absolute power over our choices? We apply Stoic framework of radical acceptance and localized focus. Let's look at the absolute bottom line truth of René Descartes' experiment. After tearing down every single piece of reality, after assuming his hands were fake, the ground was an illusion and the demon was controlling his senses, Descartes hit an immutable wall. He realized that the very act of doubting, the very act of overthinking and questioning his existence proved that there was an active thinker there to do the questioning. He summarized it in his immortal law: I think, therefore I am. Even in the absolute worst case scenario, your internal consciousness is untouchable. The demon can manipulate the scenery, but it cannot manipulate your capacity to choose your character. When you face massive decision paralysis, your brain is trying to control the infinite outer darkness: the future, the market, the global economy, the external parameters. You need to shrink your map. You need to focus 100% on ruling the immediate room you are given. If you are transitioning into a new professional field, stop trying to calculate the next 10 years of the global economy. You cannot render that data from inside your jar. Instead, focus entirely on your immediate daily execution. Can you study for 30 minutes today? Can you update one section of your resume? Can you manage your weekly budget to create a small safety net? These hyper-localized choices are completely within your absolute domain. When you commit to a single lane and execute with intense discipline, you stop being a passive brain reacting to electrical shocks. You become the active programmer of your own destiny. The ultimate secret behind Descartes' evil demon isn't that you are trapped inside an artificial lab vat. It's that the jar only has power over you if you refuse to move inside it. Whether the world around you is an elaborate digital illusion or just a messy, competitive, fast-moving reality, your true sovereignty lies in your immediate choices. Stop running hypothetical simulators in your head. Stop waiting for a guarantee of absolute certainty before you start living your life. Perfection is a fantasy. Execution is real wealth. You do not need to hack the global matrix to find peace. You just need to master the next 60 seconds. So here is your practical directive for the week. Close down the 50 open tabs on your computer screen, walk completely away from the digital grid, go step outside, look up at the sky, take a deep breath of fresh air, and feel the solid ground beneath your feet. Don't let an imagined trap rob you of real, powerful life. Rule your room, commit to your lane, and I will see you right back here in the next video. Now, if your brain is still frozen in a loop of decision paralysis and you want to let this logic fully settle into your mental architecture, don't drift back into overthinking. Hit replay right now, restart this video, and let's run the sequence again.